welcome to Healthy Happy Hour. I'm Angela Berg, nurse practitioner and your host for the show. With me today is Amy Shildknecht, my partner in crime, who is a wonderful life and mindset coach, essential oil certified heal. I'm going to call you a healer. That's a healer to be able to use those. And we are so glad to have you with us today. Today we're going to kind of start off talking about the pillars of healthcare. This entire program is really focused on health and wellness for families going through crisis and families in a wellness zone, how to stay in that wellness zone. So it's really important to talk about the pillars of healthcare, which include nutrition, sleep, exercise, and preventive care. And we'll break down as we go through the next several episodes. We'll break down and really dig into topics on all of these things, but it's really important to talk about that whole adage or saying of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that is really, really true. The more we are prepared, that just goes to being prepared. I think more than what many of us think of as prevention is just being prepared. Don't you think the more that you just think ahead of planning for the worst, always hoping for the best is another old saying that I always stick with. But I think the importance of developing relationships and being in rapport with your healthcare providers, their goal really is to keep you healthy, because keeping you healthy makes their job a lot easier too. So of course we'd be remiss if we didn't admit that the whole reason why we have Care for the Kids is that kids do get sick and we do need to be there for them. So Amy, one of the things I really like that the perspective that you bring is for parents. When parents get a diagnosis, not even necessarily the oncology diagnosis, but when they get a diagnosis, what are some of the first things that you think are really important for a parent to really get grounded? Because it seems like everything's been ripped from under your feet. So what really helped you get grounded?
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, almost 9 years ago now, my son was 7 when he was diagnosed with grade 4 brain cancer. And he is 15 years old now and an honors student in high school. So he's thriving and doing well. And so I have a very personal experience with what happens when the floor is ripped out from underneath you, when your child is diagnosed with anything that's going to be chronic or long-term or terminal or anything that's going to create a black cloud over your life and your world just stops and it's not your fault. And so one of the things that you really want to take into perspective is that it is their journey. Whenever something happens with your child, you want to maintain the realness that you and your child are actually separate people. And so their journey is their journey and yours is your journey. So you want to kind of go back and forth and just make sure that you at times can compartmentalize. We've heard that men can compartmentalize well. Moms don't do that so well, but you have to learn how to kind of compartmentalize. And the first thing I want you to do when something like this happens is go buy paper plates. That's the very first thing you should do, because you're not going to want to worry about dishes and dinners and anything like that. So go buy some paper plates, give yourself the simplicity, and find out who is your community, who's around you, connect, and really there's power in vulnerability. Open yourself up to receiving help from the community around you, receiving support from friends and family. And really you have to start looking at all of the pillars of mental well-being, the sleep, the nutrition, because in that moment you just want to crumble and forget about all of it, and so it's important to take a step back, take a deep breath, and understand that this journey could be a long one. This journey unfortunately could be a short one, but whatever it is, you get to create a mental bubble that you can kind of process things and take care of things. So we'll go deeper into that in more episodes.
I love that whole paper plate, because that really is all about just taking a step back and simple it down. I don't want to have to worry about dishes. Paper plates are going to be, I'm still going to feed my family and throw it away, and it's okay. We're not worried about environmental
Not
sanity
necessarily.
right now. We're worried about our own sanity right now, and that is really important as really just representative of that step back.
Yeah.
When you think about that too, the other thing is parents always are driven to want to be in control of everything. How did you overcome that need for being able to stay on top of everything?
So it's like mind blowing when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I actually have no control over anything, because that's how it feels in that moment. And you're like, oh, I thought I could control my kid. Well, now they just got diagnosed with cancer. I have no control over what's going to happen. I don't have control over the outcome. You truly have to separate yourself from the outcome and just know that whatever you do is going to be the right thing. It's going to be the best thing, and it's going to be just what you do. You know, not good, not bad, not right, not wrong. It is very, what works, what doesn't work, and that's where you go with it. And so, yeah, taking the step back and really just figuring out, I don't need to be overwhelmed. One thing at a time. I don't need to do the dishes tonight. I got paper plates. You know?
One of the things that that always struck me for you as a parent going through is that you're one of those very organized parents. Was it helpful to you to get yourself organized and have the binder?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, we'll talk a little bit more about what should be in that binder in future episodes of Healthy Happy Hour. But I was not always organized. But when your child gets diagnosed with something, that's your focus, and you'll do whatever it takes. But you definitely want to stay organized with the paperwork, with the doctors. As you said, you want to cultivate relationships, and know that the doctors have the best intentions. Go in there with that mindset, because I've seen parents go in with the mindset that the doctors don't know and they aren't good, and doctors, that's not the truth. But go in if you have a solid foundation and good relationships, and you go in that they have the best intention for your family.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to talk about that, being in rapport with your provider and physician. I think it's really important to understand there is art and science and a combination of those when it comes to this. And none of us have a crystal ball. Remember, I used to always tease, just being in general pediatrics, when my career first started, they don't come with a crystal ball, and I think they should, or at least an owner's manual, and they don't.
Right.
So it is the same with all pathology is not the same, all presentations aren't the same. There are certainly, here at Cure for the Kids, we see a lot of rare things where there may be only one of 5,000 in the country diagnosis, and one of them lives right here. And so it takes a village. It really does take a village, and it does take a lot of really smart people, which we're blessed to have, to really think of all of these things. And I think one of the blessings I feel like as part of the team here at Care for the Kids is that the parent is always right in there as part of the team. Mm-hmm. They're never not part of the team. There may be times when you don't feel like you're the one driving the bus or calling all the plays, but there are times there are none of us really calling the plays except for a higher power that it is, again, out of any of our control.
Yeah.
And it's important that rapport with your healthcare provider that's amount of prevention, so that you feel like you have that relationship. I know you and James continue to have such an amazing relationship with Dr. Wasim, and Dr. Wasim considers you guys in the highest regards as well, and that's really important relationship. Talk a little bit about how that helped you through some of the roughest news.
Yeah, well, I was also going to say, I said that doctors do have the best intention. I also want you to keep in mind that they're not always right. You may disagree with them. You may have another opinion. You may want another opinion, and that's okay. Do your research, but You want to just maintain that rapport, and you want to be open with them. This is crucial. And this, I think, is one of the ways that Dr. Wasim and myself and James really connected along the journey. Is I told Dr. Wasim that I am an integrative, holistic, more of the non-pharmaceutical type of mom. I always have been. And when this happened, I'm like, okay, everything in the kitchen sink. So I was very open and said, we're going to do everything that I want to do. I'm going to, look at the options, look at all the different things. And he said, just tell me what you're doing. He said, please be honest. Don't hide any of the, woo-woo stuff or anything like that. And so that's a very, very key element to the rapport, is being open and being honest and finding a team that you can work with in the best capacity for your family. So for me, that was a very, very important piece of information, because I have seen families that don't want to share everything. They're like afraid the doctor's going to say no. Well, if there's interactions, if there's things that could happen, just know that you're on the same team. Everybody wants your child to succeed. Everybody wants your family to succeed. Everybody wants wellness as the end goal. So everybody wants the same outcome. Yeah.
And I think that's such a great point. The world that we live in now is really much more open to integrative therapies, I think, than we've ever been. And I think your healthcare teams know that you're going to be looking for information on the internet and wondering about things that are non-pharmaceutical. And it is really important that you feel close enough to that provider and have that open, honest relationship for them to give you legitimate, listen, this is what the research shows, this is the interaction that those can have. Very much, I think, a risk versus benefit approach to healthcare. I think it's so important for your own mental well-being as a parent through the entire journey. Providers don't get any satisfaction in not being your partner, and you don't get any satisfaction in them not being your partner. Yeah. And so it's for the mental well-being all around of the entire healthcare process, the patient, the family, that whole picture of being able to openly communicate and be in a supportive environment is so important.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What do you think was one of your biggest challenges in, I know that it kind of opens up when you put yourself out there, that there's a lot of people who either don't want to give any advice or talk about it at all, or there's a lot of people who have all kinds of advice for you. So talk a little bit about how that feels as a parent, and how do you manage that?
Yes, it's very interesting when you put yourself out there. We were actually very open about James' journey. And, so many people will have the cure, eat an extra carrot a day and you're cured, this crazy off the wall thing. Some have some really good information. And I always approached, whenever people on social media or whatever was like, oh, let me just tell you, here's how it's going to get fixed. I was like, listen, I never went at it in a negative way. I always just assumed that they had their best intention. They had intentions of helping. And they weren't doing it against us or trying to, make us change our mind. And I never tried to argue back and forth. I would just say, thank you very much for the information. And some of it, I really did research. I'm like, that's an interesting take. And I would do my own research. I'm a researcher just by nature. I will do whatever it takes. But, when people are out there and they're trying to give you all the advice, or they don't want to give you any advice, just say thank you. Just say thank you and move on, and use your own critical thinking to do your own research, and talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor and say, have you heard about this? I mean, there are different things going on that you can research and find, clinical trials or things that may actually help you that the doctors aren't even aware of yet. So always be open and honest.
And there may be things that the provider knows that you wouldn't think that they would know. Right. I've never, it doesn't ever cease to amaze me that at some of these conversations I get in with colleagues that I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have thought you knew about that. But yeah, it's interesting. Such an important topic, and we're going to have much more on this topic in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. You're with us, Amy and Angela, here at Healthy Happy Hour. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Stay right where you are. Welcome back to Healthy Happy Hour. I'm your host, Angela Berg, nurse practitioner, and we are so lucky to have with us today to kick off our redevelopment of Healthy Happy Hour. We have Pam Long. Her title to me is dietitian extraordinaire. She is a longstanding member of the community and passionate about healthy pediatric children for our community. So thank you for joining me, Pam. And I know today we talked about it's September childhood cancer, or childhood cancer awareness, but also we've got childhood obesity awareness. And so that certainly needs as much attention or more. We have much more childhood obesity in the community than anything right now.
We sure do, and there's a wonderful campaign that the Southern Nevada Health District is doing, and I absolutely love it. It's called 5210, pardon me, and it means 5 vegetables, fruits and vegetables, 2 hours or less of screen time, 60 minutes, 1 hour of exercise, and 0 sugary drinks. So it's such a fabulous campaign. It's a good way to get the whole family motivated and the whole family healthy. So yes, absolutely.
And that's catchy. Everybody likes those things that are easy to remember like that.
Yes, absolutely.
So that goes into a lot of, they need to plan. It gives them goals too. A healthy goal of those 5 fruits and vegetables. Will you kind of talk a little bit though, because a lot of, as a healthcare provider, a lot of those kids think that that means 5 fruits in a day, that they don't have to mix that up, fruits and vegetables, and parents still feel good if they're eating fruit. Talk to us a little bit about why that's not really how that works.
So I think it's a good place to kind of start, but I think that being able to find your comfort fruit, so okay, so the child is comfortable with fruits, okay, let's start there. But eventually, because this is going to be a lifestyle change, we do want a variety. It's really important to have a variety of fruits and vegetables. So in the beginning, if apples is their comfort fruit, that's okay. And then maybe the next month you go discover something that's in season, maybe like a persimmon, and you incorporate that. So now you have 2 fruits that the child is comfortable with. And then maybe the next month you'll find a vegetable and you'll have that child cook the vegetable. And so it's going to take time. This is not an overnight thing, but introducing something new every month is a great way to have a wonderful family relationship, spending time with your child, and it's very, very good for their health and their future.
And it makes a healthier relationship with food if it's kind of together and it's really a family thing, instead of the mindless eating in front of video games, which I know is another thing. You talked about screen time. So talk a little bit about what we've seen since COVID.
There has been, I think parents were stressed out with COVID and they didn't know what to do, and I don't think this is one family. This is, oh my gosh, so many families in the community. So they gave their child a screen. Now we're coming out of COVID and we're seeing the maladaptation. So our children are completely dependent on these screens for entertainment, for comfort, for everything. And now we're seeing children not moving as much, and we're seeing more obesity happening and more of those kinds of issues. So this campaign is trying to limit screen time. Let's get back to less than 2 hours a day of screen time. I think it's so important because if you're on the screen, and we've all been down that rabbit hole when it's like, oh my gosh, I've been on for this long watching TikTok videos or whatever video. And then guess what you're not doing? You're not moving, you're not exercising. So we've got to get back to pre-COVID when we were moving and we weren't dependent on screen times, and our children went to the parks. So it's time to get back to that.
What about too, how much time they have the screen at the table and they're eating with no mindfulness to what they're ingesting or how many. Talk to us a little bit about good ways to point out, or tips for a parent to be able to point out to a kiddo how much they're really actually eating without realizing.
Well, what I love to do with my children is, this seems to work, and if there's like a screen, and maybe this is a way to not immediately, but kind of slowly get rid of the screen time, is sit with your kids. Talk to them about their day. Have them talk about the food what's in front of them. Oh my gosh, do you like that? Do you want to help me cook? Tell me about you. Tell me about the colors that you're eating. And to be able to really not miss that screen, but to start spending more time with your children and getting to know them on a dietary basis, on a nutritional basis, you will learn a lot. And it's such quality time with your children too, that you don't get back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then what was the zero of the campaign for?
Sugary drinks.
No sugary drinks. Oh my gosh. No energy drinks counted in those, which are full of a lot of bad things plus sugar.
Yeah, we don't need them.
Talk about what kind of things we usually see when you get consulted. What kind of things are you usually seeing?
So there is a lot of advertising that is aimed for children. You know, Gatorades and power drinks that have a lot of sugar, those are more aimed for your athletes. And for a sedentary child who's not moving, that's not necessarily the best choice of beverage. If you kind of notice that your child, it doesn't play soccer, doesn't move, isn't out in the heat, and they're having, you know, a lot of Gatorade, a lot of juices, and their weight, maybe gaining excessive weight, that could be one of the reasons why. It's just a whole bunch of sugar that they don't need, and there's better stuff out there. And this is a way to incorporate family time too, is to make infused waters. So you can take mints and vegetables and lemons or whatever. I mean, you could do vegetables like cucumbers. You can mix it with fruits like lime, and you can make your own concoction. They have wonderful, really inexpensive water bottles that you can infuse your own waters with, and they're really inexpensive, and it's fun to see what the child likes, and to ask them and to say, hey, come prep with me, come shop with me, let's go, and to really get the family unit back together.
Love that. I love that. That's really a great idea. This is such a great way to kick off our Healthy Happy Hour return and starting to bring attention. I know we've got more subjects that we've talked about that we're anxious to share, and we'll have much more coming up in our next episodes, but we are so glad that you joined us. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back with another healthy information segment for you. Stay right where you are.